So good morning, good afternoon, everyone, wherever you are in the world. Great to see everyone's names and faces. Feel free to turn your camera on if you can. If you cannot, that's okay. We want to make this interactive, and we will make sure that we have time for questions. I will also monitor the chat. So again, this is supposed to be also for you here as attendees. So my name is Isabel Bart. I am the founder of Impact Innovator. I have a lot of experience in social entrepreneurship and entrepreneurship, as I'm currently the director of the Small Business Development Center, part of the Small Business Administration here in Southern California at the University of California, Irvine. And I'm excited as I work with a lot of social entrepreneurs on the for-profit side and the nonprofit side to just give you some insights today in our short time together on how to build your message and how to build a strong pitch, a strong deck, and helping you convey what you're doing in a more effective manner. So I will also let Caleb Finn, my partner, introduce himself today.
Hi, yes, I'm Caleb Finn with Circular. We're a social enterprise that's focused on reversing climate change, utilizing food waste. And Isabel has asked me to present a little bit later in the presentation today.
Thank you. Yes, Caleb is an entrepreneur and has a great company that we will review. And so I will talk a little bit more high level about ideas on how to prepare your deck or your pitch. Caleb will actually give a real life example. And so we're really excited to be able to demonstrate that. And I'll turn it over to Mikita, who wants to speak on behalf of Catalyst 2030 before we get started.
Isabel, and yeah, welcome all through this wonderful session. And we are delighted that you're all here today. So since I'm Catalyst spokesperson, I won't steal your time and will just show you a short Catalyst intro video to give you some understanding, some idea on who we are.
Catalyst 2030 is a movement of social entrepreneurs and innovators embracing collective action to achieve the SDGs by the deadline 2030. Our 1,500 members are active in 197 countries. By emphasizing collaborations, Catalyst 2030 is leveraging the power of the collective to accelerate real change in the lives of billions of people around the globe. What do our members say about Catalyst?
Catalyst 2030 is an invaluable global community of impact entrepreneurs.
Our relationship with Catalyst 2030 has really taught us the power of co-creation.
Join Catalyst 2030 and network, bond, and collaborate with our family members.
And I like the spirit of bringing change makers together to share and learn from each other.
Catalyst really understands the transformative nature of collaboration.
It's also a platform that can give us new tools and resources.
Catalyst 2030 has put my work on steroids.
But most importantly, to come up with solutions that are practical, ways where we can really make things happen, because social entrepreneurs are doers.
Are you a catalyst? Join us to achieve the SDGs.
Mikita, you're muted.
Thank you, Isabel. Yeah, I was just about to say thank you again for joining us today. And just as an addition, we are still a growing organization and we are partnering and connecting with other social entrepreneurs from all over the world. So I strongly encourage you to join Catalyst so that together we can save the world by delivering SDGs on time. And yeah, I'll share some information in chat, so feel free to contact me or just click on the link. And back to you, Isabel.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for being here. From a timing standpoint, our plan is I will present about 10 minutes or so, and then I'll turn it over to Caleb to do his presentation and demonstration of his pitch. And then again, we're hoping really to interact with all of you here. So our plan is to make time for questions in the end, even though we only have 30 minutes today. But feel free to also interact on the chat, and love to have you put in the chat where you're from, who is your organization, or what you're trying to accomplish, and that would be fantastic. So with no further ado, I'm going to start the presentation and go into slideshow. Here we are. All right, so this is about building a strong executive summary pitch for organization, and just giving you an idea on the flow that you may want to take to present your organization to shareholders, if you're big companies, stakeholders, funders, all kinds of people you may work with, or maybe future employees. This can also apply to nonprofit or NGOs that may be on the call today, but also to for-profit social enterprises. So why do that, right? Why did I get inspired to create this session for Catalyst 2030 week? Because I think we realize that a lot of times we're so passionate about the idea that we have or what we're doing, and it is sometimes hard to communicate and with empathy and putting ourselves in the shoes of the person we're communicating to, who has no idea potentially of what you're talking about, right? So the idea is really to be able to come up with a piece of communication that's going to be really effective in whatever you're trying to achieve, whether it's raising funds, grants, like I said, it could even be employees or partners in the future. So it's really around communicating that value proposition. I'm assuming most of you understand the word value proposition is really what you're bringing to the table as an organization that can be a lot of times enhancing someone's gain or reducing pain to some extent, right? So for example, if you're having an organization that's going to connect people, in war zones, for example, to more humanitarian aid, you will reduce the pain of, that it could be a lot more costly or time extensive otherwise to do that. So as we know, people today in our digital age have very short attention span. So ideally, if you can have also a pitch that can be, let's say, 1 minute, 3 minutes, just be prepared. And then if you have the luxury of having a little bit more time, we'll go over today of a typical flow that you can use to communicate about your organization. Also, what's very important is to set the stage with the problem you're trying to solve. In our case, with the SDGs, a lot of time it might be easy to say, well, the problem here, right? There is hunger in the world, or, you can use some of that framework as well to talk about the problem you're trying to solve, but really then connect to why the solution you're providing is actually an innovative and unique solution to this problem. I mentioned empathy earlier, and that's really important, again, whoever you're presenting to understand where they come from. And they may have a very different perspective from you, but that is how you need to communicate to them in a way that's going to resonate, and that they will end up feeling like, oh, I want to be part of this. I'm totally on board. I want to support your organization. And I believe, especially for nonprofits or NGOs, that if you're taking a little bit of a business of polished approach, I think that can really make you look very professional, and maybe even having an edge up against, potentially other nonprofits as you're trying to really show the great work you're doing. So basically, it can be very simple in terms of articulating this message, starting with the why, then going into the what and the how. So what does that mean? And again, Caleb will demonstrate that in a few minutes, but the why is, why we're doing that. And all of us here on the call, we're all dedicated to the SDGs and making this world a better place. So our why is naturally very strong, but it's very important to remind your audience, this is why we're doing this, because we feel like, we don't want this planet to go to waste. It's time to address climate change. It's time to put an end to poverty or hunger. So the why always comes first, because you want to create that emotional connection with your audience. And then you're going to start going into the solution and what you offer by the what. giving a concise but clear idea on how you practically are going to address that problem with your solution. And finally, going into the how with more details. So what you want to avoid is jumping into the solution too fast, because then people don't feel like, yes, you have a cool product or a cool solution, but they then don't really put it in the perspective of why and the problem you're solving and why this is so needed. So again, on the flow, this is an idea on how you can organize your presentation or your pitch here, kind of repeating some of the things I said earlier: the problem, the solution, who is your target audience, and market size. That sounds kind of a very business word, but how big is the market you're potentially reaching? This is key also because you don't want to say, we are targeting everybody, right? Sometimes it's tempting to say, well, our audience can be people of all the ages, or you want to start at least refining that a little bit so it looks like you're going to be focusing your effort, at least at first, and then you can totally expand. What is your revenue or financial model and your projections? For nonprofits here too, I do a lot of work in making nonprofits more sustainable. And this is something that I would encourage you to consider so that you're not so dependent on grants or donations, really seeking some ideas and models where you can build in incoming revenue to help you move forward and grow your organization without the absolute need for fundraising. The go-to-market strategy, if you're not familiar with that, basically what that means is, as you're starting, how are you going to get to people? So for many of you, that can be a lot of digital presence. For some others, it can be really on the ground. And how can be also very small. And I love when startups think organically at first and start, gaining market share just one step at a time. What are the things we can do? Sometimes it's through partnerships. So if you have a solution around education, I'm working with an entrepreneur at the moment. Their target are schools in India, and they are doing menstrual education for young women. So we talked about, the go-to-market strategy is going to be focused on India, focused on schools. We're probably going to narrow down to maybe private schools, or we're still understanding the market. We don't know yet, but that is important. And then, maybe we'll actually target the regions that can have, that can be much more effective in working with schools. So there are a lot of different ideas, and, it's good to brainstorm all possible ideas for that. Competition, again, I hear a lot of entrepreneurs that I work with saying, well, there is no competition, we're doing something very new. Yes, but the competition a lot of times is actually the behavior of your target audience today. So even if it's a very innovative product, right? Like when Apple launched the iPhone, nobody had, I guess I'm hearing there were some potentially, but nobody really made an iPhone originally like when they came out with it. But the competition was all the things that people did, right? Well, we had a phone, or maybe we had another thing. So maybe it was 3 different products, not in one. But think about what people do today. Because if it's a change in behavior that you're proposing, you also have to work through that motion. As impact entrepreneurs, I also really will expect in your pitch or deck to talk about theory of change and impact model. If you're not familiar with it, I'm happy to follow up with anyone after the call. Impact logic model is a very effective tool at communicating the impact you have in your organization, and also outcomes that you can measure towards this impact. Theory of change, I know there are a lot of other sessions this week that talk a lot about that. So feel free, and Catalyst has a lot of resources on this topic as well. Your team, so people love to kind of hear about the team. And of course, usually at the end, you want to make an ask, whether that is if you're raising money as a for-profit impact startup, would be asking for, you know, an equity investment. It can be for donations, for grants, whatever that is, but be very clear in your expectation and what you like people to contribute to your organization with. I would also say that if you've already been, you know, doing your work for years or months, and you're not brand new at what you're doing, if you can build in a story in how you're presenting your message, it can go a long way and really help your audience resonate and say, oh yeah, I get it. So, you know, I understand how this organization helps, you know, this person, and you can weave that through your presentation. So I know my points are a little bit vague on purpose because it's a little bit generic, but like I said, in a minute, Caleb is gonna walk through his pitch and you'll see how that looks concretely. So finally, I wanted to also touch base on some pitfalls and things just to watch for. As I mentioned earlier, do not jump too fast into the how, because you may be like the operational master of your organization and know exactly how everything happens, but usually people don't want to hear that first. They not that they don't care, they do, but that's not the point of your first communication with them or how you present your organization. You can go in these details later when they ask more detailed questions. We built it so they will come. That's a common pitfall for a lot of entrepreneurs, thinking because you have a very cool solution, people are going to come use your product, your service, or help your organization. Not necessarily, right? Because it has to solve a problem. It has to match a need that some people at least out there have. And lastly, lack of reality. What I mean by that is sometimes on financial projections or fundraising projections, right? I've seen NGOs, you know, who think they can raise, you know, $1 million in the first year or something. Why not? It's not impossible, but I also like to see entrepreneurs who have a thinking process where, you know, you see the vision, and the ambition, but also a little bit of realism in terms of how fast you're going to move forward. So I believe this, and I think sorry, I have one more slide, but then I'll switch over to Caleb. So again, why, you know, why work on this? I think actually I already covered that. Sorry about that. Yeah, that was my last slide. So I can switch it over to Caleb. And I'll check the questions in the chat at the same time. So let me stop sharing. And I'll put my information as well in the chat. So Caleb, the floor is yours.
Okay, can you see this?
Beautiful.
All right, awesome. So yeah, thank you so much, Isabel, for the introduction and going through the outline. Hopefully my pitch will kind of show those elements and show how they all come together. So I'll just go ahead and start off with it. This is a new deck. We've been working on this, so thank you everyone for your patience. So hi, I'm Caleb, the founder and CEO of Circular. We are a scalable solution to the climate crisis, food quality, and food insecurity. Almost half of all food in the US is wasted. That's $160 billion lost every year. And half of everything in the landfill is biodegradable. And we continue to carve more holes to put trash every year. When the food goes to the dump, it rots into the third largest emitter of greenhouse gases on the planet. 10% of all CO2 emissions are from food waste. And to grow that food, 1/3 of all the chemical fertilizers used simply compensate for soil that is dead and devoid of biodiversity. Oh, and at the same time, all that food is being wasted. 1 in 8 Americans doesn't have enough food to eat. So how can we tackle these problems? Well, let me introduce you to the Circular solution. We are Circular, a for-profit social enterprise focused on reversing climate change and food insecurity. We pick up food waste from restaurants every day, convert it to our 2 products of rich organic fertilizer and insect protein, which we sell to farmers, home gardeners, and other retail consumers. Then we partner with those farmers to donate healthy organic meals to those needy in our communities. So how does the business model work? Well, plain and simple, we use that food waste to feed our livestock of earthworms. Then we sell two products, the earthworms themselves and their castings or manure as a fertilizer. Per location we create that services 100 restaurants. This can generate $5 million in revenue yearly with a 42% profit margin. But why these products? What makes them so valuable? Well, a growing body of hundreds of scientific research studies has shown that worm castings are the greatest natural organic fertilizer known to man. One headline recently on a leading scientific research website said that earthworm castings have the potential to completely replace synthetic fertilizers. They increase crop yields up to 2.5 times, improve the nutrition and taste of food, which another recent headline noted has been declining over the past 70 years. Worm castings reduce plant disease and pest pressure, decrease the amount of water needed to grow crops, which helps with our big mega droughts, and they actively sequester carbon out of the atmosphere and back into the soil where it belongs. And the live worms themselves, of course, they've been used as fishing bait forever, but there are continually growing markets for worms used to process food waste, but also to feed pets and zoo animals, even to feed livestock such as aquaculture fish farms. Okay, so worms are it, but why now? Here in California, it's now the law. Starting January 1st this year in 2022, anyone who produces any food waste at all must recycle it in some way. That's commercial, residential, restaurant, grocers, everyone. And as a result, fees for waste hauling continue to increase. At the same time, across the globe, fertilizer costs are rising rapidly right now. And this is due to increasing demand to feed a growing world population, but also because of the increasing cost of oil, supply chain problems, and the war in Ukraine that has cut off fertilizer producers from the rest of the world. And people really care about these problems. 70% of all adults say they care about the problems of climate change and that they prefer to spend their money on products and companies that are impacting social issues. So now is the time for a truly circular solution to our food system. But is the market there? Well, the total combined market size for worm castings and live worms in 2022 is $1 billion, and that's slated to increase at a CAGR of 27% to $5 billion by 2027. Here in Southern California, our initial target market, there's currently demand for $28 million worth of these products. So how do we plan to get these customer dollars? Our initial beachhead target customers are home gardeners and local organic farmers. We plan to sell directly to them via our online storefront, online marketplaces such as Amazon, eBay, and OfferUp, as well as in-person sales via farmers market resale partners. And from there, we intend to expand our customer reach via retailers such as garden stores and nurseries, big box stores, and online retailers. Circular intends to come into the market as a disruptor. So we know we're competing with a few different large existing sectors, but where they are all limited in scope, size, product offering, scalability, and sustainability, circular shines. Circular is a scalable, replicable model that can rapidly grow in order to truly make an impact on both of our problems and on our market. And we grow not by creating mega facilities, but by regionally localizing with small facilities throughout every urban and suburban environment, reducing supply chain problems, improving local economies, and minimizing carbon and financial footprints. The sectors I mentioned previously are extracting resources from the earth, not replenishing them. They're adding to the carbon burden of our world. Circular is a long-term sustainable solution for people, the planet, and financial stability. Our circular solution is not just carbon neutral, but carbon negative, with an estimated 1,000% carbon effectiveness, drawing it down from the air back into the soil where it belongs. And using proprietary methods of AI and automation, Circular has higher efficiency and quality of multiple products with an explicit plan for growth and expansion. In 5 years, we plan to have made a huge impact toward 9 of the UN Sustainable Development Goals, in particular toward climate action, sustainable cities, and zero hunger. In 5 years, we will have diverted a total of 160,000 tons of waste from landfills, preventing carbon emissions of 1.2 megatons, and fed 17 million meals to the hungry in our local communities. And financially, we will have generated a cumulative total revenue of 800 million with a profit of 300 million. Here's an example of our 5-year projected pro forma financials with a weekly breakdown for reference. Each week per location, we plan to sell about 14 tons of fertilizer, half a ton of worms, and generating a profit of about $40,000 per week per location. We mentioned we have an explicit plan for growth and expansion. Well, that not only includes scaling to multiple locations regionally, but we also have plans for value add product expansion of our fertilizer and our insect protein, and plans for expansion of services and entirely new products that help us to complete the circle. We have a 10-year long-term vision of the perfect circle you see here, an ambitious, regenerative, circular economy across the entire food and agricultural system. Who are we? Well, I'm a UC Master Gardener, an avid micro homesteader. I've worked on multiple farms, and I'm very passionate that regenerative agriculture is the solution to humanity's largest current problems. I'm also formerly a structural engineer, team lead, and construction project manager for 14 years. But I've left that career to go full-time on Circular to truly make an impact on our world's greatest social crisis of climate change. Our team has been accepted into the UC Wayfinder Incubator, the RevHub OC Incubator for Social Enterprises, and we've attracted an incredible team of advisors, ranging from AgFud founders, soil fertility gurus, finance, sales and marketing, and startup experts. To help us make this incredible impact with a circular food system, we're currently raising $400,000 in pre-seed funding to construct our pilot facility, to begin source collection, and to start processing the food waste into our 2 products. If you know of any foundations, investors, grants, or other programs that could help us raise this initial funding, please reach out to me at the contact info shown here on screen. And I'll say one other thing that we're looking for. We are looking for one more strategic partner to join our team as a co-founder, someone with a green heart who wants to make a difference, preferably someone with sales and marketing or biz dev experience. If you or anyone you know would like to join us, again, please reach out. I'm Caleb, and I'm happy to introduce you to Circular.
Great job, Caleb. Thank you so much. So hopefully you are able to follow the flow that I mentioned earlier through Caleb's presentation. If you want to stop sharing, Caleb, perfect. I also want to touch base on the ask, because for some of you outside the United States, $400,000 US may sound like a very big amount. This is, again, we are working really actively with for-profit impact enterprise like we will with tech startups and other companies to say, yes, your investment is, might be, besides some of your investment in very for-profit, high-growth technological companies or others, we believe that investing in private equity in social enterprise is very necessary and essential to sustainable, scalable impact in the future. So a lot of the companies we work with, right, raise a typical amount of money that a regular startup may raise. So if you're wondering, that's why. Thank you, Caleb. I think you delivered a really strong pitch. Any know we're just about at time. I think we are able to stay a few more minutes, Caleb and I, if anybody wants to ask questions or bring any thoughts or comments. Feel free to connect with us. Caleb, I don't know if you want to add your info. I guess the last slide, but doesn't have a lot of our information. I think we put it on there for getting in touch with us, and you can find us on LinkedIn. Also put my email address on there, so I'm happy to answer any questions or talk to anyone offline beyond the presentation.
I saw there were a couple questions earlier in the chat. Did you see those?
Yeah, I think I was able to answer them. And I know there are a couple of questions on, also on, impact logic model. I mean, you can easily Google it. They are different, little bit different variants of the model, but the overall idea, I think, is the same. It's very important for you, I think, if you're in social enterprise, to understand impact logic models. Also, Nike, I'm sorry, I hope I'm saying the name right, had some good thoughts about SWOT. Pestle, I don't know if that's how you say it. I'm not as familiar with that, but SWOT is important. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. It's a simple matrix that can also help you assess your market, your organization, and so on. It's another great tool. I'm glad you mentioned it. Okay. Mikita, any other last words we must say, or?
Well, just congrats for this beautiful session, and thank you for being our facilitators.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for dialing in. I hope we have a chance to get in touch with you later, and have a great rest of Catalyst week. A lot of amazing sessions. So I hope you enjoy it, and hopefully I'll talk to you soon. Bye.